A very long time ago, in the ancient Igbo village of Achi, the village was known for its strong traditions, close-knit community, and the deep respect shared among its people. Among the many villagers, one young man stood out for his remarkable strength and striking good looks. His name was Emeka. Emeka was a figure of admiration in Achi. His broad shoulders, chiseled features, and tall frame made him the epitome of manhood in the eyes of many. He was hard-working, dedicating himself to his family's well-being and contributing to the village in numerous ways. Whether it was tilling the fields, hunting in the dense forest, or helping to repair homes, Emeka's presence was always felt, and his efforts were greatly appreciated. But despite his outward confidence and the admiration he received, Emeka carried a secret burden that few knew about, a burden that cast a long shadow over his life. Emeka's burden was one he had carried since he had first reached adulthood. Unlike other young men in the village, Emeka's manhood was abnormally large. At first, he was unaware of the implications of this physical anomaly. But as he grew older and began to seek the companionship of women, the reality of his condition became painfully clear. His first attempt at intimacy had been a disaster. The young woman he had courted was excited at the prospect of being with someone as handsome and strong as Emeka. However, when the moment of intimacy arrived, it became apparent that his size made any form of penetration impossible. The experience was not only physically painful for the woman, but also emotionally distressing for both of them. She fled in tears, and word of what had happened quickly spread through the village. Undeterred, Emeka tried again. He sought out another woman, hoping that the first experience had been an unfortunate fluke. This time, he was even more cautious, taking his time to ensure that the woman was comfortable and at ease. But when the moment came, the result was the same. His size made it impossible for them to be together in the way that both had desired. The pain and frustration were evident in the woman's eyes as she pulled away, leaving Emeka once again alone and ashamed. Desperate to prove to himself that he could overcome this challenge, Emeka tried yet again, and then again. But each attempt ended in the same way, with tears, pain, and a deepening sense of failure. With every failure, Emeka's hope dwindled, replaced by a growing fear that he might never experience the love and intimacy he so desperately craved. In a small, tightly knit community like Achi, news, especially of an unusual nature, traveled fast. Within days, every woman in the village knew of Emeka's condition. Rumors began to swirl, growing more exaggerated with each retelling. Some said that Emeka was cursed by the spirits, others that he was a freak of nature. The young men began to view him with a mix of pity and discomfort. The whispers and side glances that followed Emeka wherever he went were like invisible thorns that pricked at his confidence. The once proud and self-assured young man began to withdraw into himself, avoiding social gatherings and the company of women. Emeka had always been somewhat of a loner, especially after the rumors about him began to spread through the village. However, there was one person who had always stood by him, his childhood friend, Nkem. Nkem had been a constant presence in Emeka's life, even when others began to distance themselves from him. She was more than just a friend. She was the one person who knew him better than anyone else, the one who never judged him. Nkem was unique in more ways than one. She was extraordinarily beautiful, with a grace that turned heads wherever she went. But what set her apart even more was her height. Nkem was very tall, taller than most of the men in Achi, which made her stand out in the village. The villagers often called her a little giant, a nickname that highlighted her towering presence, but never fully captured her gentle nature. Despite the attention her height brought, Nkem carried herself with quiet confidence. her long strides and graceful movements making her seem almost otherworldly. Nkem and Emeka became close because they both knew what it felt like to be different and to be judged for it. While others might have seen Nkem's height as something unusual, to Emeka she was simply Nkem, his closest friend, the one person who understood him without needing words. They spent countless hours together exploring the forests around Achi, playing by the streams, and talking about everything and nothing. With Nkem, Emeka felt at ease. There were no expectations, no judgments, just companionship and understanding. But their world was about to change. One evening, Nkem's father came home with news that would shake the foundation of their friendship. He had received a job offer in another village, far away from Achi. The offer was too good to refuse, and the family had to move. The decision was final, and there was nothing Nkem could do to change it. When Nkem told Emeka about the move, his heart sank. The thought of losing his closest friend, the one person who had always been there for him, was unbearable. They sat together under the old mango tree where they had shared so many memories, struggling to find the right words. Nkem tried to stay strong, but there was a sadness in her eyes that she couldn't hide. She knew that leaving Achi meant leaving behind a part of herself, and the thought of not seeing Emeka every day filled her with a deep sense of loss. On the day of her departure, the village gathered to bid farewell to Nkem and her family. Emeka stood at a distance, watching as the family loaded their belongings onto the cart. Nkem caught his eye, and they exchanged a long, silent look, one that spoke of all the things they couldn't say. As the cart began to move, Nkem waved goodbye, her tall figure slowly disappearing down the dusty road. Emeka felt a hollowness in his chest, a void that he knew would be hard to fill. Nkem's departure left a gaping hole in his life, one that he wasn't sure how to cope with. In the days that followed, Emeka wandered through the village, feeling lost and alone. The places they used to visit together now felt empty, and the things that once brought him joy now only reminded him of what he had lost. The pain of Nkem's absence was a constant ache, a reminder that life would never be the same. With Nkem gone, Emeka felt more isolated than ever. The village that had once been filled with laughter and companionship now seemed cold and distant. As he struggled to come to terms with the loss of his closest friend, Emeka couldn't help but wonder if he would ever find that kind of connection again. With Nkem gone, Emeka threw himself into his work, hoping to fill the void her departure had left in his life. He became even more dedicated to serving his family and the community, helping wherever he was needed. Whether it was tilling the fields, mending fences, or assisting with the harvest, Emeka was always there, his strong hands and tireless energy a blessing to those around him. But no matter how much work he took on, Emeka couldn't shake the loneliness that gnawed at him. The laughter and easy companionship he had shared with Nkem were gone, and in their place was a deep, aching solitude. He missed her presence, the comfort of knowing that someone understood him without needing to ask. Now the days felt long and empty, each one blending into the next without the joy or connection he had once known. Despite his best efforts to move on, Emeka could not seem to enchant any woman into his bedroom. The rumors about his enormous manhood had spread throughout the village, and every woman was now aware of his condition. No matter how charming or kind he tried to be, the whispers followed him everywhere, tainting his every interaction. The women of Achi avoided him, their eyes filled with pity or fear when they crossed his path. The sense of rejection and isolation weighed heavily on Emeka, eroding his confidence and leaving him feeling more alone than ever. His parents, seeing the pain their son was in, grew desperate to find a solution. They sought out traditional healers, hoping that someone might have a cure for Emeka's condition. They traveled to neighboring villages, consulting with renowned healers and herbalists, offering gifts and prayers in exchange for their help. But no matter where they went or who they consulted, the outcome was always the same. The healers could not cure Emeka's condition, and some even hinted that it might be the work of a powerful curse, one that could not be easily broken. As each attempt failed, Emeka's sense of hopelessness deepened. He had tried to remain strong, to focus on his work and his duties to the community, but the constant rejection and the futile efforts to find a cure wore him down. The villagers' whispers, once just a nuisance, now felt like daggers to his heart. The laughter and camaraderie he had once enjoyed seemed like distant memories, replaced by a life of loneliness and isolation. Emeka began to withdraw even further, avoiding social gatherings and the company of others. He spent more and more time alone, his thoughts consumed by the unfairness of his situation and the growing despair that threatened to overwhelm him. The once proud and confident young man now felt like a shadow of his former self, burdened by a secret he could not escape, and a future that seemed increasingly bleak. As the years of loneliness wore on, Emeka's parents continued to search for a way to ease their son's suffering. They had tried everything they could think of, from visiting traditional healers to offering sacrifices to the gods, but nothing seemed to work. Emeka's condition remained unchanged, and the burden of it grew heavier with each passing day. One afternoon, as Emeka sat quietly in the shade of the old mango tree that had once been a place of comfort and joy, his mother approached him with news of a visitor. Mama Neka, an elderly woman known throughout the village for her wisdom and deep knowledge of the ancient ways, had come to see them. Mama Neka was highly respected in Achi, and her words were often sought in times of trouble. Emeka wasn't sure what to expect as his mother led him to the small hut where Mama Neka was waiting. The old woman sat on a low stool, her wrinkled hands resting on a wooden staff. Her eyes, though clouded with age, still held a sharpness that spoke of a keen mind and a wealth of experience. "Come, my son," Mama Neka beckoned to Emeka as he entered. "Sit with me." Emeka lowered himself to the ground, feeling a mix of curiosity and skepticism. He had heard of Mama Neka's wisdom, but he wasn't sure how her words could help him with a problem that seemed beyond anyone's ability to fix. Mama Neka looked at him for a long moment before she spoke. "I know the pain you carry, Emeka. The burden of your condition has weighed heavily on you for many years. But I have come to tell you that there is more to a man than his physical form." Emeka listened, unsure of where the old woman was going with her words. "You see," Mama Neka continued, "the body is but a vessel, a shell that carries the true essence of a person. What truly matters is not the outward appearance, but the strength of the heart, the kindness of the spirit, and the wisdom of the mind. These are the qualities that define a man, not the size of his body or the condition he finds himself in." Emeka felt a small flicker of hope stir within him, but it was quickly overshadowed by the years of pain and rejection. "But, Mama Neka," he said softly, "how can I find worth in myself when I am unable to experience any form of sexual satisfaction or intimacy?" Mama Neka smiled gently, her eyes full of compassion. "The opinions of others are like the wind, my son. They come and go. Although intimacy is important, there is more to life than that. Find strength within yourself. That is something no one can take away. You must learn to see yourself, not as others see you, but as you truly are, worthy, strong, and full of potential." Her words hung in the air, and Emeka felt something shift inside him. For so long he had seen himself through the eyes of those who whispered behind his back, who avoided him out of fear or pity. But Mama Neka's words planted a seed of hope in his heart, a small but growing belief that perhaps he was more than his condition, that perhaps there was a future for him that wasn't defined by his physical limitations. Before she left, Mama Neka placed her hand on Emeka's shoulder. "Remember, my son, that the journey to healing begins from within. You must nurture the strength of your spirit and the goodness of your heart. In time, you will see that these are the things that truly matter." As Emeka watched the old woman walk away, her words echoed in his mind. For the first time in many years, he felt a glimmer of hope. It was small, fragile even, but it was there. A tiny spark that lit the way to a new path, one that was not defined by his past, but by the strength he could find within himself. A few days after Mama Neka's visit, a new family moved into Achi, bringing with them a young woman named Amaka. Amaka had faced her own share of hardships in life, but she carried herself with a quiet strength that drew people to her. She was beautiful, with a warm smile and a kind heart, yet she had an air of mystery about her that intrigued many. Despite the whispers and rumors that had long surrounded Emeka, Amaka was captivated by his amazing physique and the aura of strength and dignity he exuded. Unlike others who judged him based on what they had heard, Amaka saw beyond the surface. She was drawn to Emeka, sensing the depth of character beneath his quiet exterior. As they began to spend more time together, a bond of mutual respect and understanding grew between them. Amaka appreciated Emeka's kindness and the way he always treated her with respect. For the first time since Nkem's, Emeka felt a connection with someone that went beyond the superficial. With Amaka, he found companionship and understanding, something he had thought he might never experience again. Their relationship blossomed, and soon the two became inseparable. The village watched with curiosity as Emeka and Amaka grew closer, their connection undeniable. Eventually, their bond led to marriage, a union that filled Emeka with hope for the future. However, as time went on, the reality of their situation began to weigh heavily on Amaka. Despite her love for Emeka and the strong bond they shared, she could not help but feel the void brought on by the lack of physical intimacy in their marriage. Amaka had suggested exploring non-penetrative ways of being intimate, hoping it would help bridge the gap between them. But the absence of a complete physical connection left her feeling unfulfilled. The love and respect they had for each other were undeniable, but the growing sense of emptiness in their marriage became too much for Amaka to bear. Despite their best efforts to make the marriage work, the emotional and physical distance between them only widened. In the end, they made the difficult decision to divorce. It was a painful choice for both of them, but they knew it was the right one. Amaka needed more than what their marriage could offer, and Emeka, though heartbroken, understood her reasons. The divorce marked the end of a chapter in Emeka's life, one filled with both hope and heartache. Though the marriage had not lasted, it had taught him valuable lessons about love, connection, and the importance of emotional and physical fulfillment in a relationship. As Amaka left Achi to start a new life, Emeka was left to pick up the pieces of his heart once again. Yet, he knew that this experience, like all the others, would shape him and help him grow. The path ahead was uncertain, but Emeka was determined to continue his journey, hopeful that one day he might find the love and connection he so deeply longed for. Years had passed since Nkem had left Achi, and Emeka had tried to move on with his life, though the memories of his childhood friend never truly faded. Life had thrown many challenges his way with his failed marriage with Amaka, and though he had grown stronger in some respects, the deep loneliness and isolation he had felt for so long still lingered in the corners of his heart. One afternoon, as Emeka was returning from the fields, he saw a figure in the distance that made him stop in his tracks. It was a woman, tall and striking, her long strides confident and graceful. As she drew closer, Emeka's heart began to race. There was no mistaking her. It was Nkem, even more beautiful and commanding than he remembered. The years had only added to her allure, and Emeka found himself captivated by her presence the moment their eyes met. "Nkem," he whispered, barely able to believe his eyes. "Emeka," she replied, her voice filled with warmth and familiarity. They stood there for a moment, taking in the sight of each other, the years of separation melting away as if they had never been apart. The deep bond they had shared in their youth was still there, stronger than ever, and Emeka felt a rush of emotions he hadn't experienced in a long time. That evening, they found themselves under the old mango tree, the same place where they had spent so many hours together as children. They laughed and reminisced about the past, sharing stories and memories that brought them closer with each passing moment. The connection between them was undeniable, a thread of understanding and affection that had never truly been broken. As the night grew darker, their conversation became more intimate, their shared laughter giving way to a deeper, more personal exchange. Nkem spoke of her life away from Achi, the challenges she had faced and the lessons she had learned. Emeka listened, feeling a sense of peace and comfort in her presence that he had longed for. One thing led to another, and before they knew it, they found themselves drawn together in a way they had never been before. Their bond, once purely platonic, had evolved into something more profound and deeply emotional. The connection between them was undeniable, and they embraced each other with a passion that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. They kissed and made love soon after. In the intimacy of that night, Emeka experienced something he had never thought possible. As he penetrated her, he felt a form of pleasure and fulfillment that he had never felt before. For the first time, he was able to be with a woman in the way he had always longed for, and it brought him a sense of peace and acceptance that had eluded him for so long. As the night wore on and they lay together, Emeka felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Nkem's return had not only rekindled their friendship, but had also healed a part of him that had been wounded for years. The deep emotional connection they shared was stronger than ever, and for the first time in his life, Emeka felt truly whole. He now knew how it felt like to penetrate a woman, and understood why his marriage with Amaka had failed, as this was a pleasure too much to sacrifice. The news of Nkem's return to Achi and her reunion with Emeka spread quickly through the village. But it wasn't just the return of an old friend that had the villagers talking. It was the announcement of their upcoming marriage that truly captured everyone's attention. Emeka and Nkem, once childhood friends separated by time and circumstance, were now set to be wed in a ceremony that promised to be a celebration of love, hope, and acceptance. Nkem's parents were overjoyed when Emeka shared the news of her return and the passionate night that had rekindled their bond. The joy in their eyes was unmistakable, especially when Emeka told them that their love had blossomed into something deeper, leading them to the decision to marry. Emeka's mother, who had always hoped for her son's happiness, danced and cried tears of joy at the thought that it was finally possible for her to have grandchildren. She had supported his previous marriage to Amaka, but she knew this was different. This was true and destined. The proposal itself had been a moment of pure emotion. That fateful evening, as the sun set and bathed the village in a warm golden light, Emeka led Nkem to the old mango tree where they had shared so many memories. He held her hands in his heart pounding in his chest as he looked into her eyes. "Nkem," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "You have always been my closest friend, the one who stood by me when no one else did. When you left, I felt like a part of me was missing, and I never thought I would feel whole again. But now that you're back, I realize that you complete me in a way I never imagined. I now know I was searching in the wrong places." Nkem smiled, her eyes softening as she listened to his words. "Emeka, I have missed you more than you know. You have always been in my heart, no matter how far apart we were. Being with you now, it feels like coming home." Emeka took a deep breath, gathering his courage. "Nkem, I never thought I could experience love and connection the way I do with you. You've shown me that I am more than my past, more than my condition. You've made me believe that anything is possible. I don't want to spend another day without you by my side." He paused, his eyes searching hers, and then he spoke the words that had been in his heart for so long. "Nkem, will you marry me? Will you make me the happiest man in the world?" Tears welled up in Nkem's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Emeka. Yes, I will marry you. You have always been the one for me, and nothing would make me happier than to spend the rest of my life with you." They embraced, both of them overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. The bond they shared had always been special, but now it had blossomed into something even more profound, a love that had endured through the years and would continue to grow in the future. Their wedding was a beautiful ceremony, filled with color, music, and the vibrant traditions of Achi. The villagers adorned themselves in their finest attire, and the air was thick with the scent of flowers and the sound of joyous singing. Emeka and Nkem stood together, hand in hand, as the village elders blessed their union, their faces glowing with happiness. As they exchanged vows, the significance of their union was not lost on anyone. Emeka and Nkem's marriage, once considered impossible, had become a symbol of hope and acceptance for the entire community. The whispers that had once surrounded Emeka's condition were now replaced with words of admiration and respect for the couple, the little giant and the man with the extra-large manhood. After the ceremony, the celebrations continued late into the night. Emeka's mother watched her son with pride, her heart swelling with happiness as she thought of the grandchildren that might soon fill her home with laughter. For years, she had prayed for this moment, and now, as she saw the joy on her son's face, she knew that her prayers had been answered in ways she could have never imagined. As the night drew to a close and the guests began to depart, Emeka and Nkem found a quiet moment alone. They sat together, reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this day. "Nkem," Emeka said softly, taking her hand in his, "I still can't believe this is real. After everything we've been through, to be here with you now, it feels like a dream." "It's real, Emeka," Nkem replied, smiling. "We've made it through so much, and now we get to start a new chapter together. I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." Emeka's heart was full, not just with the love he felt for Nkem, but with a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. For so long, his life had been defined by his physical condition, by the limitations others had placed on him. But now, as he looked into Nkem's eyes, he knew that those days were behind him. His journey had not been easy, but it had shaped him into the man he was today. A man defined not by his condition, but by his kindness, his hard work, and the love he shared with Nkem. Their marriage was more than just the start of a new life together. It was a legacy, a symbol of hope for others in the village who might be struggling with their own challenges. As years passed, the bond between Emeka and Nkem only grew stronger. Their love, once tested by time and trials, had blossomed into a beautiful partnership that was the envy of many in Achi. Their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and the pitter-patter of little feet as they were blessed with many children.